over the weekend. Ben Hunt not only wants to depart the Dragons, he wants to leave now. Michael, it's been a dog's breakfast for look, I'm giggling, but I'm not a Dragons fan. I'm a Bears fan. I'd rather be a Bears fan at the moment than a Dragons fan, and my team's not even in the comp. This situation, is it as bad as it seems? Because at the moment it feels horrific if you're a Dragons fan.
Yeah, well, it depends where you sit on whether or not you want Ben Hunt at your club. The reality is he's asked for a release.
Well, is there a Dragons fan out there that doesn't want him at their
Well, I think there are Dragons fans frustrated the fact that Ben Hunt's been at the club for a number of years now, and they last played finals football in his first season. The last 5 years they've missed the finals, and Ben Hunt has been part of a losing team. Now, as good as he has played individually, the Dragons haven't performed with him in the number 7 jersey. The problem is, and every club will tell you this, there aren't many number 7s around. Now, the Dragons are playing tough and they're saying they're not going to release Ben Hunt, but we know how this plays out. It's going to end with the Dragons trying to get as much from a club who's interested in Ben Hunt as they can, whether that be a financial compensation or a player or a swap deal. But the reality is Ben Hunt doesn't want to be at the club anymore. And I think you'll find that, as Danny said, he's played his last game at the club.
Gus, general manager of a club, your most high-profile player comes to you and says, I want out, I want to leave now. But he's just signed a contract last year. What do you do?
I've got no experience in that, so I can't tell you. It's never happened to me.
You wouldn't want any experience in that either,
thankfully,
would you?
Yeah, no, thankfully. Yeah, look, I think until Ben actually talks about it and the club actually talk about it, and probably amongst themselves, they're not going to share that publicly. Everything else in the media is kind of speculation, and there'll be certainly agendas in the media. Some media types will be trying really hard to embarrass Ben and get him to feel embarrassed that he has to stay, and others will be sort of asking the Dragons to play hardball. That's just how the media works. But, you know, for a captain to come out with this sort of stance, particularly when he's facing an Origin game this week, I mean, I find the timing of it and the way he's done it says to me he's pretty emphatic about he doesn't want to be at the Dragons at the moment. And for a captain to do that, that's not a great look for anyone. You know, so you know, I think it's a matter of what's his space. We can speculate all we like, but there's something that's not right there, and they've got to sort it out. I think he's, as you say, I mean, one of the solutions here is he's great collateral for trades and anything else that the club might be looking for. They've got some brilliant young halves there in the system as well. And Ben Hunt's at the back end of his career. He wants to be happy for the final couple of years of his tenure. He doesn't want to be playing hooker. I think I've said that a few times. He wants to be playing halfback, and I guess at the moment he's just a little bit confused and disillusioned with the way things have worked out. Whatever it is, he's taken a very strong public stance. Normally this is done behind closed doors, and it's never played out publicly like this. What I've seen.
It's been that way for the majority of the season. When there was speculation around Anthony Griffin's future, he came out publicly and said that if Anthony Griffin's not here, I can't guarantee that I will be here. He openly admitted he's the captain of the club.
There, that's the thing. Like,
yeah, he's got a contract.
He only signed last year. He signed an extension last year. Now everyone says contracts aren't worth the paper they're written on. Well, they're not. At times they're not, but at times they can be. The Dragons want to enforce him to stay. They can. Now I know that you don't want to play at a club that doesn't want to be there, but unless they can get someone of similar ability or one or two players, why would you let him go?
Yeah, but Ben's not silly. Like, there's a reason this has happened in the middle of Origin, optimal time. It's made all the news all week. It's going to put the Dragons in a position, like it has for other clubs, they're going to be in a position where it's going to be untenable. And that's the reality of the situation that Ben's put the club in.
Yeah, look, for years and years and years, clubs have got rid of players that were under contract. They've found a way to pay them out, terminate them, trade them, or send them off to England, to UK, or whatever. Clubs have treated contracts shabbily. You know, we've forced players out of clubs that were on contract because either they weren't performing or their money wasn't right, or we had other options coming through, or we had to manage the salary cap. Part of trading players is simply salary cap management. Sometimes you've got to do it, right? You've got to do it to get value in your salary cap. It's got nothing to do personally with the player. So clubs are trading players all the time and looking to trade players. So they can't suddenly turn around and say, oh, well, he's breaching a contract because he's asked to go. Clubs do it all the time.
Yep.
It's only a really big story when a player wants to do it. Then you've got, oh, yeah, we want to hold him to his contract. Well, it's not that easy sometimes.
Well, they can if they want.
They can if they
They
want.
can if they want. That's the thing. If they want, it's going to
Yeah.
be an expensive lesson though. You got a
Yeah.
bloke on $1 million who's going to be sitting playing in reserve grade. Like that's no good for the club or no good for
That's
anyone.
no good
But-
for anyone.
No good for anyone. I agree. But if they wanted to go play hardball, they could. I wonder, and I probably think Ben Hunt wants to go to a club to win a premiership. That's what I'll be thinking.
Sure.
He's,
But with
he's
all due-
34 years old next year, isn't he? It's the only thing he hasn't done in his career is win a comp.
Okay, with all due respect to the clubs that he's been linked to, though, the Gold Coast Titans.
Which are they?
Well, there's talk about the Gold Coast Titans, there's talk about the Bulldogs, and Gus met with Ben Hunt over the off-season. Now, I'm not sure where things are at with that, but these aren't clubs that are going to win a premiership in that 2-year window. Is it the Dragons, by the looks of things? I just don't know what his motivation is. He's telling people different things. Does he want to win a comp? Is he unhappy with the club? Is he unhappy with management? Does he want to go back home to Queensland to be with family? I'm not sure what Ben's motivation is. Gus, what do you think his motivation is? And are the Bulldogs a club that would be interested in Ben Hunt if he was to become available?
I don't know. I don't know what is at the core of his motivation. I just know that it must be strong for him to be making this statement as he is at the moment. So I don't know. He hasn't told me what his motivation is at all.
Are the Bulldogs interested in Ben Hunt if he was to
I
become
think everyone's
available?
watching this space. You know, you go out and try and buy a halfback. There aren't many around. There are none around. There are none around, and they're pretty expensive if you want to buy a good one. I think everyone's watching this space, but until that's sorted out between the Dragons and Ben Hunt, it's a waste of time anyway.
That's where it's hard for the Dragons to get a player like for like is near impossible. I mean, he's an Origin player, he's an Australian
No one's going
player.
to give up a good player. to
Exactly
get
right, and he's a quality player. He's a halfback. He's a great halfback. So I mean, to find someone to replace him is virtually impossible at this time.
And the other interesting fact in all this is the NRL now getting involved and talking to the manager about anti-tampering and whether or not he can be getting contracts and negotiating contracts for other clubs. As the rules stand right now, he can only negotiate with other clubs for 2026 when Ben comes off contract. But we know that's not how it works. He'd be in a position now, and people don't believe that Ben Hunt would want to release without a deal somewhere else. But the talk is that is the Gold Coast Titans. The Dragons are really frustrated with the fact that there are other clubs, they believe, looking at Ben Hunt and trying to entice Ben Hunt to leave the Dragons immediately.
So, Luke Brooks, if Ben Hunt does depart the building, he'll obviously be linked with the Dragons too, you'd imagine.
Well, they've got two good halves there. They've put a lot of time and effort into Junior Ramon and Bud Sullivan, and now they haven't really given them a chance to play together too much over the last few years. And Ben Hunt has been unwilling, as we said, to move to 9. He's wanted to play at 7, and with Anthony Griffin at the club and their connection there, he's played the majority of his time in that number 7 jersey. We haven't seen Sullivan and Ramon get a real crack at it, and I think that's what the Dragons will do. I can't see them going for Luke Brooks if they've invested so heavily in those two young halves.